Welcome to Kelly Ripa Show channel. It started as an ordinary day in New York City. Busy streets, fast-moving crowds, and people lost in their own worlds. But sometimes, in the middle of all that chaos, something unexpected happens, something that stays with you long after the moment is gone. Imagine walking down the street, minding your own business, and suddenly coming face to face with someone you've only ever seen on television. Not just any celebrity, but someone known for charm, confidence, and that larger-than-life presence. That's exactly what happened in this story involving Mark Consuelos. But what makes this encounter truly unforgettable isn't just who he is, it's how he acted in a moment no one expected. And as the story unfolds, it reveals something deeper, something surprisingly emotional about fame, humanity, and the quiet moments that define a person's true character. The story began when a fan, just like any one of us, was walking through a crowded Manhattan street. There was nothing unusual about the day. People were rushing to work, taxis honking, and street vendors calling out to passerbys. But then, out of nowhere, the fan spotted a familiar face. At first, it didn't even seem real. Was that really Mark Consuelos walking casually down the street, without a crowd, without security, just blending in like everyone else? For a moment, the fan hesitated. Approaching a celebrity can be intimidating. What if he was busy? What if he didn't want to be disturbed? But something about the moment felt right. So, gathering courage, the fan walked up and simply said hello. And what happened next is what's now being called heartbreaking, not in a negative way, but in a deeply emotional human sense. Instead of brushing the fan off or giving a quick nod, Mark Consuelos stopped. He smiled, genuinely. Not the kind of smile you see on camera, but the kind that reaches the eyes. He took the time to listen, to engage, and to make the fan feel seen. In a city where everyone is always in a hurry, that alone was powerful. But the moment didn't end there. As the conversation continued, something shifted. The fan later shared that there was a softness in his voice, a kind of quiet reflection that wasn't expected. It wasn't just a quick celebrity interaction. It felt real, personal, almost as if for a brief moment the spotlight faded and what remained was simply a person connecting with another person. And that's where the story takes on a deeper meaning, because behind the fame, behind the television appearances, and behind the polished image we see on shows like Live with Kelly and Mark, there is a real life, one that includes pressures, responsibilities, and emotions that don't always make it onto the screen. Many fans know Mark Consuelos as the confident co-host alongside his wife, Kelly Ripa. Their chemistry is undeniable, their humor feels natural, and their relationship has often been described as one of the strongest in the entertainment world. But moments like this remind us that even the most admired couples face real-life challenges and emotional realities. Interestingly, this real-life encounter started gaining attention online around the same time a viral headline was circulating. Mark Consuelos gets candid about life off-camera. Fans left emotional. While the stories are different, the emotional tone is strikingly similar. Both highlight a side of him that audiences don't always get to see, a more reflective, grounded, and deeply
Back on that
human
New York
side.
street, the fan noticed something else. There was no rush in his behavior, no sense of urgency to move on. In fact, he seemed fully present in that moment. In a world where time is often the most valuable currency, giving someone your full attention is rare. And that's exactly what made this encounter so meaningful. At one point, the fan mentioned how much they admired his work and his relationship with Kelly Ripa. Instead of giving a rehearsed response, he reportedly paused, just for a second, and then responded with sincerity. It wasn't a long speech, it wasn't dramatic, but it felt honest. And sometimes, honesty is what touches people the most. The fan later described the moment as unexpectedly emotional, not because anything sad was said, but because the interaction broke through the usual barrier between celebrity and audience. It reminded them that behind every public figure is a private individual who experiences life just like anyone else. This story quickly began to spread, not because it was scandalous or shocking, but because it was genuine. In a time where headlines are often driven by controversy, this was something different. It was a reminder of kindness, humility, and connection. And perhaps that's why people are calling it heartbreaking, not in the traditional sense, but in the way something beautiful can catch you off guard, the kind of moment that makes you stop and think, the kind that stays with you. For many fans, Mark Consuelos represents success, charisma, and stability. But stories like this add another layer to that image. They show that he's not just a television personality. He's someone who values real interactions, even in the middle of a busy city. It also speaks volumes about his relationship with Kelly Ripa. Their connection has always seemed authentic, and moments like this reinforce that perception. When someone carries warmth and sincerity into their everyday interactions, it often reflects the kind of environment they come from. As the story continues to circulate, more people are sharing their own experiences. Some recall brief encounters. Others talk about moments they've seen on television that now feel more meaningful. And slowly, a bigger picture begins to form, one that goes beyond fame and into something more relatable. Because at the end of the day, what people remember isn't always the big performances or the major headlines. Sometimes it's the quiet moments, the unexpected conversations, the simple acts of kindness that don't make the news, but should. And maybe that's the real takeaway from this story. In a city as fast-paced as New York City, where people often feel invisible, one small interaction made someone feel seen. And in doing so, it reminded thousands of others of something important, that kindness doesn't need an audience, and authenticity doesn't need a script. This wasn't just a celebrity sighting, it was a moment of connection, a reminder that even in the busiest places, humanity still finds a way to shine through. And as more people hear this story, it continues to resonate, not because of who was involved, but because of what it represents. A simple hello, a genuine smile, a moment that turned into something unforgettable. That's the kind of story that stays with you. And that's why this heartbreaking encounter is touching hearts across the internet. This is Kelly Ripa Show.